All right. Welcome to the Beyond Coaching podcast. You've got your co-hosts here, Zach and Max, the extravagant duo here. Today, we're joined by Tanner Allen, owner of Journey Training in Arizona. Tanner started on a path to physical therapy, logged 500 clinical hours, and realized he could help people faster as a coach. He went from renting space with one client to owning a tight-knit 170-member facility that blends personal training, semi-private, small group, and a growing year-round athlete program. Along the way, he learned to hire specialized coaches and build systems so the business could run without him. We'll get into the leap to invest in mentorship, how he scaled from doing it all to developing a team, and how community impact projects like blessing bags and local fundraisers became a powerful driver of culture and retention. Tanner, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. So, you went from DPT, potentially going physical therapy, to coach. Take me through that thought process and the realizations you had there.
Yeah, I think being hurt so much as a child, as a young athlete, obviously, kind of fostered this curiosity in me to kind of fix myself and my own problems. And I was fortunate to work with great therapists, and they profoundly impacted me in my recovery while, playing club sports growing up, and then high school, and then college athletics. So I think I had a deep admiration and respect for people who helped me, and I wanted to do that for others. And so naturally, learning a lot about the body and my own therapy, and then going to school, and it was chemistry, physics, biomechanics, all that, all the stuff, anatomy, physiology, biology. Those are things that really kind of I gravitated towards. And so the fast track was to go to PT school, but as a college student, nearing the end of college bachelor's degree, I just found myself personal training just to make money while finishing my bachelor's degree, and fell in love with it and figured school wasn't as fun as training and working with people. And obviously, you guys know, people all have problems, even people signing up for personal training, they all have a bad knee, they have a bad hip, a bad shoulder, a bad back. And so you're problem solving and trying to sort through how to help them as a personal trainer while not stepping out of, the lane of, hey, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist or an ortho guy, but I think I have some solutions that could contribute to increasing longevity and the health of the joints, and let people work around and still get strong and healthy despite.
Yeah, and
Do
and
you
if I yeah, Max, excuse me. If I remember correctly, you walked away from a full ride D1 scholarship to pursue this. Is that correct?
Not D1, but yeah, college
Okay.
sports. I was
Oh,
I
yeah.
was at a small NAIA, played JUCO ball, love JUCO. Shout out to MCC Thunderbirds. And then went out to San Diego, and yeah, I had scholarships on the table, and yeah, I just got burnt out. Sports became a job and wasn't super fun anymore. I'm like, my body hurts. I'm doing this. I'm doing school, and I just wasn't in love with it like I initially was.
I think
when
that
you
comment was gonna make Max laugh because I have a video. Did you think about the
I
YouTube
was
video?
gonna say it, but then I
Okay.
couldn't.
It was, I used to make motivational YouTube videos in high school, and one of, like, my lines was like, "Not everyone's meant to be D1," or something like that. I know
Yeah,
man, Max was around during that time, so, like, I know he thought about that line as soon as
that's
we said
exactly what I
D1.
was thinking of, exactly.
Go
But
for
yeah,
it.
I was gonna say, when you started your facility, did you come at it from a perspective of, like, physical therapy first, I'm gonna do this, and this is the way to help people? Or did you come at it from the athlete perspective, like, hey, I wanna work with athletes, and I think I can bring this to the table? Or was it like just kind of, yeah, like what did you say, like, that first day you opened up? What were you thinking?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was working for 24-hour fitness at the time, big box, chain, and that, just my clientele had kind of dwindled out. I had zero interest in the corporate model, and it just, yeah, the managers and the staff there weren't great. And so I left with one client, who had said, "Hey, I want to follow you no matter where you go." And I was like, "Okay." So I actually trained in my gym, in my garage gym, before I became a renter at a private facility. So I had a fully built out garage gym.
Nice.
I had started working with a handful of clients out of my garage gym in Arizona, which is horrible, right? No, like,
Yeah.
we split, we're just sweating, grinding. And then one led to three, four, five, and they were all people who were family friends. And so absolutely the elderly population who had a lot of problems. I think one of my very first clients had a major brain damage, incident, some trauma years and years prior. So she could barely walk. She fell a lot. She had, really low muscle mass and weak, brittle bones, osteoporosis, all of it, you name it. Motor function, like couldn't raise her hand above her eye level. And so, man, I was like deep in just like, I will help anyone and everyone, but I'm so not qualified for this because I'm a 21-year-old and I'm just saying yes to anyone. And largely those were elderly clients. And so I was problem solving and working on balance and just basic range of motion function and giving people back their quality of life. But then there was this part of me who I'm fresh out of college. In my head, I'm still competing in a lot of ways. Like I'm fit, I can run, I can jump. And so I wanted to help youth athletes, so junior high, high school baseball players specifically. And so I started branching into that. So I'm working with all these elderly, and then I'm also working with, young athletes. But I quickly realized that the seasonality of sports, isn't a great business model because I'm only working with baseball. And so I'd work with them in the summer, a little bit in the fall, then I'd lose them. And then I'd be broke and frustrated and like,
Yeah.
man, I need clients. And so I'd filled that gap with a lot of personal training. And continued to build that personal training clientele. And I actually had to shelf the athlete stuff for quite a while. I really couldn't do it all. And so I had to go with the model that made sense financially, which was I have year-round clients who are willing to pay me good money, high-value clients who are willing to pay, and I really didn't have time for athletes until I started getting help from coaches and a staff and a team of people.
Yeah. I feel like that's
Yeah,
a problem a lot of people run into is early on they they think, "Oh, I'm gonna do this thing because I wanna work with, like, top people. I wanna work with I watched a video of LeBron James working out like an idiot, and I wanna fix him." And, like, that's their idea is, like, "I'm gonna be paid 150K a year to fly with Jeff Bezos everywhere," and, like or whatever, you know? And then reality sets in, and it's like, there's, like, 20 or 30 people between 60 and 70 that want to get stronger and they're willing to come in 3 or 4 times a week and they're just there. It's not flashy, but it just pays the bills, right? And so it's like that ability to sort of make that connection. The fact that you kind of lucked out early on and saw that like the viable option here might not be the, flashy thing is kind of cool. But the fact that you basically started your facility even already knowing that going into it, right? You had like a clientele base of personal training. Yeah.
yeah. I think so many people want to work with the best, but I always say like
Yeah.
you can't build a business on the 1%.
Yeah.
It's so hard, but like every coach is getting into this. Like I remember I wanted to be a football strength conditioning coach was like my goal, and then I realized at some point that's all like nepotism or who you know.
Yeah.
You end up being like the women's underwater basket weaving swim team coach,
Yep.
strength coach, and then you grind for 80 hours a week to get paid less than minimum wage on some sort of internship thing. And it's such a grind versus going the private sector, which is what I end up doing. One of the things that I think you've done incredibly well is you've got like massage, nutrition, and like, I think your wife's salon, or you have a salon in the same space. How did you build that ecosystem intentionally?
Yeah. Yeah. So interestingly enough, when I started renting, so I went from my own garage gym, right? Just like ghetto fab, right? It was just like me. I didn't know how to set up a facility. I'm just a 20-year-old at ASU, acting a fool, just a total goober, right? And then I had this passion. I knew, I'm studying kinesiology. So I think there's some, knowledge far greater than just the typical CPT, guy who's ripped and likes working out. Like I cared about this stuff. I wanted to learn and have that knowledge. But then I jumped into renting space from the prior gym owner. And so his whole model was fill his gym with renters like myself. And so I was one of 13 at our peak where I'm bumping shoulders, I bring in a couple clients and this guy brings in a couple clients and then this person. So you have this 4,200 square foot facility, really 3,000 square foot of gym space with 13 coaches. I mean, it was crazy. And so we're all renting space from, the former gym owner, and I'm watching this model unfold. And then I'm getting busier, right? My business is growing. And he approached me one day and said, "Hey, dude, you have way too many people in here. Like, you need to find your own spot." And it was a good thing. It was a good problem. But he's like realizing, like, I'm the golden boy. I was the very first coach to start renting from him. And so we have deep history, but he's looking at the chaos of this facility. And, if 6 coaches come in at the same time and they bring 1 to 3 clients and we all want a squat rack, we have 5 squat racks and that's it. So you're kind of, figuring out how to program and work around each other, all to say, he encouraged me to kind of start looking for a space. Over the course of 3.5, 4 years, I was buying equipment, looking for a spot to lease. And so I had 4 storage units filled to the ceiling, with gym equipment, cable machines, thousands of pounds of bumpers and kettlebells and barbells. And he was very patient with me, but he still had renters. And along that journey, he had a massage therapist and then he had a chiropractor renting all of his space. And so I kind of watched, and then he was gracious enough to share kind of his books and what it looks like to run a facility, what the insurance costs and what is rent and how to lease, how are the leases structured and what to expect, right? And so that was very helpful, kind of a mentor figure to me, big brother figure to me. And so towards the end of us kind of learning what the heck it looks like to rent a gym or own a gym and rent space, right? And go from that to like being on the lease, he came out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I'm getting out of the gym industry. Do you want to buy me out?" Which was totally out of left field. I had been looking, all over Arizona and it just nothing landed. And so that was just a godsend. What a blessing to stay at the exact same facility that I was renting space for about 5 years at the time, to go from that to, hey, I'm signing the lease and now I'm the owner. And so we took on a handful of the renting coaches. Some of them, skedaddled. We had, rubbed each other wrong. It was like not a good fit. They instantly knew when I became, the owner, hey, it's not a good fit. But we just kept the massage therapist. We kept the chiro. And then over the years, we're like, man, this is really added value to our members. Like we have a great massage therapist that we can send our members to when their shoulders flared up. And then we had a chiro and then we had a naturopath. And then prior to building the salon, we had a doctor of physical therapy for a little over 4 years. And so she was amazing and offered the ability to teach workshops on Saturdays and educate our members and patients on what she offers. And so really, really valuable. And I think we've just kept that model. But when the physical therapist and I parted ways, we really wanted to make that space profitable. And I didn't need that much space for an office. And so my wife was renting space as a hairstylist, and we thought, why don't we just build a salon for her and then we'll rent it out to other hairstylists, which is what we're doing. So pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
Dude,
It's
pretty
it's
smart.
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because like I find gym owners, there's typically 2 paths. One of Max's best pieces of advice to me when I was opening my gym, he doesn't give a lot of good advice, but this one was actually good, was build a gym for the coaching as the business. The gym is just a vehicle to help you get there. It's like it's a coaching business first. But I find a lot of gym owners take 2 routes. One is they go turnkey automated model where it's like, yeah, I charge trainers rent and they do that. And like the trainer is really the client, like that's the rev gen. And then they have the space and maybe have some open gym memberships and they go that way. Or you make it a coaching first space where the coaching is the brand in the business, which is like what we all do here during this call. And then you control the revenue, you control the brand. It's like a real business. However, I find that when you're starting, like I remember when I was starting in my 1,800 square foot facility, it was very tempting for me to rent space to trainers because like I needed the money really bad. And I didn't do it because I was worried about quality. I didn't want my clients to be having this really good quality of coaching. And then, they walk in and see some guy squatting on a Bosu ball from another trainer that was just paying me rent. And I wanted to control the quality of training in the space. So I don't know. It's just a note that I've always found interesting. I think if a gym owner's listening to this or someone, a coach that wants to open a gym, there's weights to being patient with revenue and not just kind of selling the soul to sell the space out to a bunch of trainers. If your coaching model is really where you want to go, short term, maybe you fill some gaps of revenue with rent, but long term, if you want to build a coaching business, you want to also be able to control the quality of the coaching that's happening in the space.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
For sure,
Because,
yeah.
when we bought the gym and we, signed the paperwork over the lease and all that, we kept trainers as renters as well. So it wasn't just a massage therapist and a chiro, up front in these office spaces that we had. We needed those trainers and their rent because our business had not grown to the point of justifying. I was going from $1,000 paying rent to, 4 to 5 grand plus expenses. And so I didn't have the revenue to justify that. So we did need the coaches to rent from us. But I was very honest and upfront with those coaches from day one. I called a big meeting with all the renting coaches and I said, hey, I'm really, really thankful that you guys are here. But my goal is to have my own team, a journey only team who are W-2, not 1099. I want my own brand and we're going to go there. When we get there, I will communicate to you guys, but that's my long-term vision. And so I'm going to be honest and upfront with them along the way. And when that time comes, I'm going to pull the plug on renting space. So we're good until we're not good, and they respected that. And it was just an honest conversation from the get-go. And then, we bought the gym in 2017 and in March of 2020, we all know what happened, right? COVID shut the world down. And I think feeling overwhelmed and frustrated that I came into my own gym and it didn't feel like my own, stuff would be left out, things would be broken and I wouldn't hear about it. Nobody would say a thing. A cable machine snapped and it's like, dude, really? Like holes in the wall and crap, it's like, seriously? And then I'd have group classes that I was leading or a coach of mine would be leading. And I mean, a trainer would be just all up in the mix. And it was just like, we need this money, but it doesn't feel like my own gym, and that's a really interesting feeling as a business owner. You're like, I'm sharing space that I need the money for, but I don't really feel like it's my own. And so in June of 2020, we made a really hard decision and just said, you know what, we're going to make the next leap of faith, which beyond buying a business and taking out a big business loan and, feeling overwhelmed financially was to pull the plug on the renting coaches. And it was just forced adherence to grow the business, market harder, bring in more business. And so, yeah, that happened in June. And I gave the coaches a 60-day heads up, said, hey, you got to move on in 60 days. And in 10 days, they were all gone. And so,
Nice.
and the overwhelming response from our members was, thank you so much for doing this. We are
Nice.
so proud of you. We finally have a gym where we can just like have peace and quiet. I think part of me was terrified that if it was quieter and we had all this space that people would feel like we weren't being successful and that like, oh, the gym's kind of empty. Like, is this business okay? Or are they doing okay? Versus like it always being crowded and always noisy. And it felt like there was a lot going on, but there was a lot of chaos with that and internal strife in my own, heart and mind. So the peace of mind coming and going and feeling like it's finally ours, that took 2.5 years. And yeah, like monumental leap of moving into, what was very scary financially to like, we actually did it and, we survived. We survived COVID and we survived the financial leap of not having thousands of dollars of revenue from renting coaches. And we just grew our business.
You said something in there that I think is kind of, I'm not sure if listeners will have caught on to, but that I think actually makes the biggest difference is you described what you wanted it to be. And you knew exactly like, you're like, I want to be my own coaches, W-2 employees doing my thing this way because it's the right way or whatever. Like you had this like, that's a distinct vision that I think is really rare in a lot of businesses. People that have very little experience in business see it as you do things and you get paid money for it. And so they'll do a lot of stuff where it's like, they'll hit a plateau of, okay, the gym's doing this much money. And so now, well, okay, let's sell t-shirts instead of saying like, why are we not doing twice as much revenue? Why don't we have twice as many members? And instead of saying, hey, the problem is probably, okay, we need more leads. We need to close more leads, whatever it is. They look at it as like, do this too, then do that too, then do this. And you kind of have to in the beginning. It's like part of bootstrapping is like, you take everything that comes your way because you need resources. But that's fine if you also have that vision. And the fact that you had this vision, and I don't know if you were aware that like, that's such a powerful and driving force for a new entrepreneur, new business owner to have this sense that like, this is where we're going. And anything that's not in line with that, I have to get rid of it as soon as I can. And so you're not sitting there because you could easily have been a guy who's sitting here doing this podcast with us and being like, yeah, we rent out our space to 8 trainers and you guys know how it is. It's hard to make rent and blah, blah, blah. My wife's got a studio, a salon, and she also does some baked goods and shovels does some landscaping on the side. I'm putting her to work, and like I got 3 other jobs as well. Like, but no, you're like, this is what we're doing. And it works because everything is funneled to that. And when someone comes in the gym, they come into a business and they see this place sells hamburgers. That's all they do. They don't have chicken and ribs in the menu. It's like, you get it, right? So it's cool to see that. It's really cool to hear that. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but that's such a unique trait to have had that early on, to know right away, this is what I want it to be.
Yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
is
yeah,
it? Oh,
100%.
Yeah. I mean, it's rare. You don't see that a lot. I think a lot of people get in, especially coaching. They get in because they like coaching. They get in because they like people, and they start picking up stuff all the time. I did it a lot. I mean, I still do it now, like you're picking up too many things, and you just got to drop it all and say, this is it. That's the one thing. We're doing this.
yeah. Yeah, go for it,
Go
Zach.
for it. Oh, yeah. Well, one of the things too that you've done that I think is also rare is the investment in your own mentorship and education as a business owner. I know that you went from working, 10-hour plus days to having to become a true owner, a true entrepreneur. And I know you invested in pretty expensive, mentorship to get you there. What led to that decision, and how did it change your life?
Failing feels like, the evolution of yourself as an entrepreneur, just as a business, right? With others around you who speak into that, is you try one thing, it works for a while, and then it stops working and you have to pivot, right? The world has changed. People have largely changed. And I think the principles of business are pretty tried and true, whether you're in the restaurant business or gym or, any service-based industry, right? There's universal truths. But what I was doing for years and years prior, it worked then, but it felt like it wasn't working now. And the tech boom and AI and other things with social media and ads, and the way in which I used to post and advertise for myself on behalf of the gym, things started to kind of slow down. And I realized, man, we've had success in the past and it's been great, but it's not working anymore. And I need a new strategy. And I'm scratching my head, frustrated, wondering what the heck to do, because all I've known is this way, for the last 8 or 10 years. And so I kind of got to the end of the rope where, I'm married, I have 3 young daughters, and I just need more for my family, right? Like I need to provide in different ways than when it was just me on my own as a 21-year-old starting out. I can ball on a budget, and, it's different, right? And then you think of like weddings and tuitions and big stuff is like, okay, the world, it's a lot more expensive. Like I have to think long term. And the way in which I was thinking was like here and now for many years. And so family and having kids largely changed my perspective, but then being responsible for other coaches and payroll and the increasing expenses. And so I kind of got to that point where things were just starting to not work anymore like they used to. And I was getting pretty frustrated. I felt like I was starting to resent other people and seeing the success of other business owners and people, or like friends of mine and family who work in sales, who have pretty easy jobs and get PTO. And I'm like, dude, I'm working really hard and I'm grinding, and I'm not making that much money right now. And I think that really started to eat me up. And so we kind of came to the fork in the road where we just decided to get help. We had to get help, like there was only so much to my knowledge of business and savviness on that front. I think I'm a great coach and I'm good with people, but I wasn't doing a good job of managing a business. And so I just needed help. And we hired a different company initially. And it felt like they were kind of like a rudimentary kind of beginner, like, hey, I'm looking to start a business type, consulting agency. And I was already through that, I'm tried and true through COVID and a lot of things. And so I wanted a little bit more. And so we hired Two Brain Business, which has been phenomenal, right? They did the full audit and deep dive, and they pushed me and challenged me and, put my back against the wall and said, hey, what are you going to do about it? Right? Like, stop talking about it and take action, And that's exactly what I needed, because I do that for other people, right? Like, we're leaders in our businesses and in sphere of influence. And I think very few people like point the finger at me and critique me and challenge me. And so that's what I needed, in this last year of life. And so we just wrapped things up with them. Honestly, I felt like the growth and the things that I learned were extremely valuable. And I feel like now I have a path forward for the systems and the foundation of how we can run a successful business without, paying, a huge investment each month. It's like, hey, now I need to go do it. So I feel really good about that.
That's cool. Yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
business mentorship is a is one of those things where a lot of people are apprehensive and they feel like maybe it makes them feel like they're, it's like, oh, well, if I do this, it means I don't know what I'm doing. And they don't see it as like a super valuable thing. Like, business people of all levels have gurus and helpers and, people that come in and, advise on things. Right.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's cool that you have gone through that now,
Yeah. Or even just like, the gym owner that says they can't afford it. I was stuck at 10 grand a month for a bunch of months, and I spent $1,500 a month on business coaching. And so 15% of my revenue went to business coaching because I knew that I was the bottleneck. And with that coach, I scaled my gym from 10 grand a month to 70K a month. So like took like 3-ish years, but like, the ROI is there. Oh, what's something you would say, Tanner, to the gym owner that says I can't afford it? I can't afford coaching.
I couldn't. I was terrified. I literally made that decision, and I don't think I slept that first night. I mean, I was just like that gut wrenching feeling that you have. You're like, what did I do? I just signed a 12-month contract with these guys. Like, I can't back out now. Right. And so there's absolute terror and fear involved sometimes in business to say there's no guarantee that this is going to work out. Right. And so just like buying the business and taking out a big business loan and borrowing money from a multi-millionaire, the guy that lent us the capital to start our gym. I mean, he has a plane hangar, he's got a G6 private jet, he's got a helicopter. And I walked in as a 21-year-old and I'm sitting in this glass office with this private jet down there. And I felt like, what am I doing here? I feel like a fraud, right? And I handed my business plan and he looked me in the eye, he had critiques and he said, hey, this is a great start, but go fix it and come back and let's talk again.
Nice.
Spent months fixing the nonsense that didn't make sense. I sought counsel with other mentors. The other mentor that I didn't hire, he was a family friend actually, but he did it for free and just said, hey, I love helping other people. He sold his business for, $50 million, 10 years ago. And I'm like, this is a guy I want in my corner. So then I sought counsel and mentorship from him. And then he helped me rescript the business plan. Then I go back to this other guy and he looks me in the eye. He flips through it and he goes, I love it. We're going to wire you money today. And I'm like, blown away, right? And driving my beater truck out of this, North Scottsdale, super wealthy area. And I feel just like call my mom and I'm just like tears in my eyes. Like, we did it. We got the money. Unbelievable. Right. And it's like terrifying though, right? Now I have to pay this guy thousands of dollars every month. And I'm so afraid to fail him in addition to the business and running the business. And my wife got pregnant 4 months after we got married. The same week we took out the business loan, we bought the gym. She tells me the same week that we're pregnant. 4 months after we got married, I'm like, I am overwhelmed. So it's scary. Like for the entrepreneur, dude, it's terrifying, right? But if you feel that calling on your life, you've got to go for it, right? Like, don't sit back and wonder, like, oh, I should have, and be that guy who talks about high school and all of it. Like, you're going to have to make a decision. What do you want to do? You want to go for it and maybe fail, or talk about what would have happened and could have happened, and regret. And so, just time and time again, there's been moments where I'm like, all right, we've got to go for it. And it's terrifying. And so, business mentorship was that place. We didn't have the money, but I prayed a lot and I told my best friends and my pastor, and I'm like, please pray for me because I am like literally all in. And if I don't make this work, like we're going to go under. And that's scary. But, we made it work. And I think you just fight and claw to survive when your back's against the wall and you have no other options. So,
yeah. It's
I'm ready to run through a brick wall.
Dude, yeah. It's funny when you say that because it's like, there's so much about all this stuff that you remember when you started it, how hard it is. And it's hard all the time. It's always difficult, right? Like you're always dealing with something. Even today, it's not like there's a success story. Like, oh, I did it. Now I'm the guy who's got $50 million, right? That's such a rare outcome. But to have gone through and like you started, and it's like you had the worst scenario possible, and not really the worst, but like you take a loan out the same week that you find out you're gonna have a kid, and like all this stress and everything, all of it's piling on, but you have this sense to like, okay, I just got to do the next thing. What's the next most important thing? You go in and you do it and you keep going. That's I think a lot of people, I'm curious to know what you think, a lot of young people that try to get into this, or people who are new to this kind of stuff, where do they make mistakes that maybe you've made as well? Or where do you think that you see a lot of mistakes being made from any new gym owners or business owners that are getting into this space that you're in?
Yeah. I have this mantra that I've told myself is just like, just outlast everyone, honestly. I mean, I'm not, honestly, I don't feel like I'm a gifted athlete. I feel like I was a very average athlete as from a strength perspective and a physique. I'm very, very average. Like I have clients who are stronger and more I don't care. I'm a great coach. Like I'm great at helping you get better. And so when it comes to the internal battle and strife of like, can I do this? Can I not? Right? Like comparison is the thief of joy of like looking around and seeing what everyone else has and what you are lacking in. I just have told myself for years, just outlast everyone. Like stay steady, stay rooted and grounded. And if I just outlast everyone, I'm still here and others have come and gone. And people know that I'm reliable and I'm just going to be in Tempe and journey training still there. Right. And so, yes, I want to thrive. I don't want to just like make by and I want to provide amazing things for my family and my children. But I think just weathering all the crap, because like you said, it doesn't end, right? There's new problems and new challenges. And you think you have the new staff and the team members that have kind of completed the last little pieces of your team and your needs. And then someone says, hey, like I'm moving out of state, like my husband got a new job and you lose a great person. You're like, dang, that hurts, right? Like that was my dude or that was my gal. Like they were an awesome piece of this puzzle of our business program and what we're offering. And so it's just constantly, right? Like, but I think it gets a little bit more leveled out, right? And one of the things that, Two Brain has taught us, like, expecting to not have these huge fluctuations up and down, like build healthy systems so that you can expect healthier revenue, right? Like forecast like a better revenue in like expectation, right? And with your team, the standards become more clear. You start writing SOPs and things down. It's like it's not highs and lows that are super extreme, which I think was a failure of mine prior. Was just I'd be on cloud nine when things are good, and then when things would hit the fan, I would be in the pit. I would be losing sleep. I'm a mess. And I think I've just learned to weather the storms better, respond with a more stable, healthy, emotional, response to my team and for my family more. Because, like you said, it's not going to end. Like, stress is inevitable. I have friends who crush it in sales and started out making no money, and now they're managing hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts. And it's like, it's just bigger money, bigger stress, right? It's still stress. And I feel the same,
Yeah.
as your revenue increases, it's the same stress at just like a bigger level, because now you're like, man, if we have a bad month, it costs me more, right? If we had a
You have more
great
to
month,
lose.
more, but it's still there. And so, yeah, just weathering it, having a level head, right? Like having outlets. We had a team meeting today, and I think the thing that we talked about was just like emotional health and like knowing that clients come to us that for us to be on our best for them, right? They bring baggage into the gym and we kind of have to like be the thermostat. And like if someone's super pissed about work or worked up about family or like the social things going on in our world right now, it's like we've got to weather that and kind of set the temperature. And so you also have to like encourage people when they need it, and you also have to push people when they need it. And so it's our job as coaches to kind of like play this chameleon in a lot of ways, and we really have to do a good job of that in the service industry. And so when it comes to the business stuff, it's like, man, you like people are going to betray you. You're going to have clients who just like your favorite clients are going to leave you in a moment's notice. And how you respond says a lot about your business and what your staff are looking at and how they respond. Right? If I just get pissed and like overwhelmed and I'm an emotional basket case, like they respond accordingly. And so I think it's a big burden. It takes years and years to get there, but you have to if you want to scale a business.
Yeah, I think one of the most important traits I see with the most successful entrepreneurs that I like actually like spend time with, not just someone I see on IG or whatever, but it's like it's high stress tolerance. And so it's ability to remain calm within the storm. And I think we've all had like some of the things that have happened to us as business leaders probably would cripple someone else. Like it's just part of it. Like my wife and I were talking about this last night where she has like some of her coworkers cried the other day because like work is really hard. And like she's like, I don't cry at work. Is like something wrong with me? Like I'm just handling this. I'm like, you just have higher stress tolerance. There's people that just can't handle certain levels of stress or anxiety. And it's so important that we do remain calm. I mean, any martial artist will tell you, or even like someone in the military, like in a combat area, right? Like if we stress, like all of a sudden, like we can't even focus on what's happening in jujitsu. If I'm like flustered, if I then I make a mistake. But if I stay calm, I can actually see everything that's going on and make an informed decision. And so, as entrepreneurs, I think that's so important. It's an underrated skill that I think is super crucial.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Sorry. Go Max.
No, no, go for it. Go for it.
Well, I know you kind of talked about SOPs, and I did want to dive into your team development stuff because I think you've done some really incredible team development and leadership. I know you went from like hating SOPs to like making them the foundation of your freedom. Take me through how you've been able to systemize your business, and then what you've done to systemize even developing other coaches as well.
Yeah. And that's not a perfect process. Honestly, I would say I'm like pretty bad at it still, but I'm committed to the process. And so when it comes to the different services that we offer, right, there's a clear written down standard for what does group training look like? What is to coach group training? What does a personal training session entail? Right? What is as we're building out a nutrition offering that's a little bit more comprehensive. What is it that the client's getting? What are they paying for? And what should they expect, right? Even just writing those things down. I think in the past, because part of my gifting is just a visionary, right? Like I want to get excited about big dreams and visions, but I wouldn't write it down and it wouldn't be clear, right? What I talked about 3 months ago, nobody remembers, right? I don't even barely remember it, but it's in my own head. But I can't expect coaches to be like, oh, yeah, in June, Tanner on a team meeting said this. They don't know that. It's not fair unless I write it down and then, have a checks and balances or like KPIs to measure, right? And so we're starting to do that now. And that all started as a result of a mentor pushing me to do that, right? And I never would have kind of got to that point had someone not emphasized the reality of the things that I was most frustrated about in my business was a lack of clarity. It lacked clarity of what the expectations are. So I can set the standard and say, here's how things are done, and here's how I would train someone, and here's how I clean the gym and set up a session and communicate. And they can shadow me and watch me do it. But until it's written down, and then we go back and forth, and I recoach them and they reshadow. And then we have one-on-one meetings and we go, hey, I'm seeing this. Honestly, it's for your well-being and it's for the flourishing of you as a coach and for our business, for me too, right? That I would take the time and have one-on-one meetings regularly and go back and forth. I mean, literally today we had our team meeting and a coach stayed after and we spent an hour together going through a process that is really important to us, which is goal reviews. We sit down with clients, we give them a Google form that they fill out, which is, are you happy with your results over the last 90 days? Where are your biggest wins? What are you most proud of? What are you most frustrated with? And walk through important questions that lead to better retention for us as a gym. And she's letting me know that, man, I'm not getting people to text me back. And there's been a lack of communication. So we go through the text script. What are you sending out to people? Is the link in there for them to book the calendar appointment? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. What are we discussing in these conversations, right? We have the Google form. It's important. But what are we really getting to in these meetings, in these goal reviews? They're 15 to 20 minutes. And so we spent an hour together going over the heart of these goal reviews, which is we want people to get results at our gym. If they're just going through the motions, which is really difficult with gym pop, right? They show up, they do a workout 2 to 3 times a week for an hour, they go eat like crap, they don't manage their stress, they don't sleep great, and they're over fat and they're not getting great results. What happens to that person? they leave our gym in 6 to 12 months because why would they pay what they're paying with our gym to not get results? And so, man, I like dug in hard because it's important to me that these systems work. And I told her, you've got to be honest with people. You have to set the standard for what we would define as good health. And if if they're not achieving that, yes, there's grace and we work with people and we're compassionate and kind, but we tell them the truth, the hard truth that if you're 70 pounds overweight, it's best that you lose body fat for your health and for your family and your loved ones. They want you around. And you've got to find that trigger that gets them to believe that this is worthwhile. They have grandkids to these people that we train. You've got to do it for them. If you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for your grandkids, do it for your kids. And so it was like a very heartfelt, meaningful with this coach to get to the crux of the issue, which is this system that we've implemented recently means nothing if we don't get to the heart of the issue with our members. I don't care about your Google form and your answers. And if they don't get results, they leave our gym. And that's why we're doing this. This is a retention strategy. So it's just moments like that where I'm committed to spending an hour bi-weekly with all my coaches in a one-on-one capacity. We have a weekly team meeting for an hour and we do a heart check. Hey, what's the high lows of the week? What are you struggling with? And then we have KPIs that I'm tracking with my coaches of, are we doing what we said we wanted to do? So, I mean, life changing right there, right? Just like super
Yeah.
simple, but creates our gym from struggling and kind of going through the motions to let's create an awesome business that everyone can win and flourish.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
super cool.
absolutely.
There's I think it's Jeff Bezos talks about in one of his books, the idea of like missionaries and mercenaries. And, mercenaries are basically people that are getting into business to make money. And so it's all about like get in, get out, and sort of the extra time wasted. There's no vision. It's just like what's going to be profitable, go in and do that, and then, can extract it and then get to the next thing. And missionaries are not concerned with the profit per se as much as the mission, right? And what you're talking about is super cool to hear because you're sort of saying like, we build the system around success and we measure the KPIs of like, are we getting these people to the next level? Are we as a gym focused on a singular goal and mission that we can then convey to our athletes or to our customers? Because they'll start to realize like, oh, this is bigger than just like me coming in and working out for 30 minutes and my trainer forgets about it. Right. I pay my money. I come in because they can do that anywhere. And the cheaper option that's closer, they'll go to that if there's nothing special. But when you have this mission, which is like, hey, this is our thing. I think back to the time that our gym was probably the most filled with people, most successful. Our whole goal all the time was nationals. We want to get as many people to the national championships as we possibly can. And so everybody was seen as, hey, how do we get you to the next level? And people loved it because they felt like they showed up and that was the point. And like everything they were doing was focused on that. So it was always about driving towards that end. When you get away from those missions and you get more into this, like, well, I just want more people, just need more people in the gym, oh, we got to do this. Like everything falls apart. Right. And then people
Yeah.
stop caring and so on. The retention drops and all that.
Yeah.
Tanner, as we wrap up, I've got a question for you. And you've done a lot of things right. You've achieved levels of success, but I'm curious if you had to start journey training over again today, what's the first thing you'd do differently?
I mean, I would have these systems in place from day one, right? Hands down, clarity of, yeah, what is our mission? Who are we for? And then reverse engineer from that vision. What are the systems? What are the marketing systems that we're using? What's our marketing plan? Defining what excellent coaching entails if for a coach here at Journey, right? And how do our customers want to be cared for and treated? Setting that standard from the get-go, and then actually holding coaches to that standard and holding myself to that standard too. And so I think I just fumbled around in the dark for many, many years. I did a lot of things right. I think there's a natural inclination to be a people person, extrovert, be energetic, and then also have a knowledge of the body and give people good results. But that only works when you're a one-man show and you're overwhelmed. You're a slave to your job and the gym and the business, because if I leave, people leave. And so bridging that gap from I need help, I want to start a family, I want a vacation, I want to take the morning to spend with my family or do other things, to go golfing and whatever. Like that's impossible if you don't systemize. And so, yeah, that's my biggest learning curve over the last years to systemize and scale. Yeah, you have to have those systems in place and um, do it at the pace that you feel comfortable with. Right? I think it's easy to compare and be like, oh, this person did this and they grew to 10 locations in 2 years. It's like that's rare, right? Like one gym is hard, right? Let alone multiple. So I mean, don't get lost in the nonsense. Just follow your plan, follow your mission, and grow at the rate that is healthy, right? Because I think in the digital media world and social media, it's just we're comparing and we're just lost in the success of others. And I think when you really look at the data of how many businesses fail in the first 5 years and how many people are starting businesses and absolutely going under, you realize like, wow, I kind of made it. Like we did it. It's incredible that we've survived as long as we have. And that's something to, pat your shoulder for is like, you've done well, acknowledge those successes. But yeah, that's what I would do different.
I love
Nice.
that, man. Well, hey, we really appreciate you being on today. I think this is a jam-packed episode. I also bummed we didn't get to dig into some of the community stuff you're doing, but maybe that's another episode. You're doing some amazing work over there with the community too. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.